Good morning, all. I am Swapna, working as an assistant professor in CSC AIML in Marri Laxman Reddy Institute of Technology and Management. Today, my topic is functions in Python. So, first of all, what is a function? A function is a group or a block of related statements that perform a specific task. Functions help us to break our program into smaller modules. So in Python, we have two types of functions. One is inbuilt function or also known as predefined function, and the second one is user defined functions. So for what is a inbuilt function? So inbuilt functions or the predefined functions are the functions that readily come with Python are called in built-in functions. So the function definitions of the inbuilt functions are already in the function Python virtual machine. If you want to use the inbuilt function directly, just call the function. That's it with the specific arguments. So we no need to write the function definition again. So in the Python interpreter has a number of functions and types built into it that are always available. The second one is user defined functions. If our requirement is unavailable in built in functions, then we can define our own functions called user defined functions. So in user defined function, the user has to write the definition for the particular task for a particular function. So but in inbuilt functions, the function definition is already inbuilt. Just we call with the appropriate arguments. But in user defined function, we have to write the definition for a particular task. So that in syntax for defining a function or a user defined function is, for defining a function we are using def keyword and followed by space and function name. This function name is the appropriate identifier and the list of parameters. These parameters are separated with comma, and here this is a function header. This function header is compulsory end with a colon. And next we have to write the set of statements for a particular task. Here we have to follow the indentation. So indentation is just normally auto by default it is a usually it is 4 spaces. So for defining a function, first of all we are using a def keyword and the function name should be unique and a valid identifier. The parameters are also known as arguments through which we pass values to a function, and a colon indicate the end of the function header. The set of statements of a function must have the same indentation level. So here, like in C and C++, we are using some open and closed brackets for a set of statements of function, but here we are using a indentation for each line. So generally, these indentation is 4 spaces. So after defining a function, we have a topic called documentation string, also known as the doc string. Generally, we are writing this doc string immediately after the function header. It is used to explain what a function does. Although optional, documentation is a good programming practice. Although it is optional, but it is very good to write documentation string immediately after the function header. So generally, the function header documentation string we are enclosed in 3 continuous single quotations. We have a doc string immediately below the function header. We generally use triple quotes. so that docstring can extend up to multiple lines. So by using these, we can write the docstring in multiple lines. So this string is available to us as underscore underscore dot underscore underscore attribute of the function. Suppose if you want to print the docstring in the function, then we have to write like this print, and this is a function name dot underscore underscore dot underscore underscore. This is an attribute, but generally it is optional. So if you not mention this line in our program, this sentence or the statements will not display on the output screen. If you want to display the docstring in the output screen, then we have to write this statement print the function name dot underscore underscore doc underscore underscore attribute. The next is calling a function. So after defining a function, so we have to call the function with the appropriate keyword, with the appropriate arguments. Once we have defined a function, we can call it from another function or another program or even from the Python prompt. To call a function, we have to type the function name with the appropriate parameters. For example, def is a keyword for defining a function, and hi is a function name, and name is the parameter. We in this example we have only one parameter, that is name. So this is a docstring. This program is to print a hi message that is passed as an argument to the program. This is a docstring. Then after that I want to print the name. Print hi common name. So I want to tell some hi to some person, that is a name. Then this total is function definition. Now call this function with appropriate parameter values. So this is the calling function. Hi and the name. Here we have name as an attribute, name as a argument. Here the appropriate value for that name argument is Swapna. Then the output is here print hi common name. That's why we got the output as hi Swapna. This is a calling function. Then return statement. The return statement is used to exit a function and go back to the place from where it was called. The syntax is return and the expression list. Here the statement can contain an expression that gets evaluated and the value is returned. If there is no expression in the statement or the return statement itself is not present inside a function, then the function return the none object. For example, def hi name. The hi is a function, name is a parameter, and here print, we are printing the name, and here we are not mentioning any return statement. Print hi Swapna. Here I am calling the function inside the print statement. Then hi Swapna. Here we are not mentioning any return statement. That's why it is none. So generally in C, Java, a function can return only single statement or single value. But in Python, we can return multiple values at a time. So this is an example for multiple values, return multiple values, just like arithmetic. Here we are performing arithmetic operations and we are returning multiple values at a time in Python. So the def arithmetic operations are the function name, but here we are passing only two values, x comma y. So return x plus y for addition, x minus y for subtraction, x into y for multiplication, x divided by y for division, and for x modulo y for modulo division. So at a time we are returning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 values at a time to the function. So These are the 5 written statements, but to store these x plus y, again we require one variable, that is x plus y will store in sum, x minus y will store in subtraction, in division, multiplication, division, and modular division. So for storing these values, we require 5 variables. These are 5. These are also 5. So just arithmetic operations with x value is 20, y value is 10. So then we are printing addition, m, subtraction, multiplication, division, and modular division. Okay. Here sum. So addition, we got 10, 20 plus 10, 30, 10, 200, 2.0. For modulus, it is remainder is 0. We got the output like this. So here, in return statement, we are returning 5 values, and here we are mentioning the comma. So this is one return statement, second, third value, fourth value, and fifth value. These are separated with comma. And here again, to store these 5 values, we require 5 variables. That's why 5 variables is equal to the function name with the values. If multiple arguments are returned, default return type is tuple. If we need a list, we have to convert that tuple explicitly to list. So def arithmetic operations is x comma y, return. So again we are returning 5 values. To store these 5 values, here we are not using the concerned related respective variable names, we are not using. Here we are, the output is, we are printing the output in the form of tuple. That's why this result. So result contains these 5 values in the form of tuple. So arithmetic operations 100 comma 10. So 100, x is equal to 100 and y is equal to 10. So this is known as tuple packing. So here by default it is a, when we are passing more than one value we are returning, then those values are in the form of tuple, that is known as a tuple packing. So to print these tuple elements, we are using for loop for I in result. So this is result, this is a result is a tuple. So in tuple again we are using indentation, that's why print of I. So first addition, x plus y, this is x minus y, this is x into y, this is x divided by y, and this is x modulo division y. So here we are using tuple packing for output. Then the scope and lifetime of a variable. The scope of a variable is a portion of a program where the variable is recognized. The parameters and variables defined inside a function are not visible from outside the function. Hence, they have a local scope. The lifetime of a variable is a period throughout which the variable exists in the memory. The lifetime of a variable inside a function is as long as the function executes. They are destroyed once we return from the function. Example for scope and lifetime of a variable. So here we are defining a function, def a func. Func is a function name, and this is a header, function header end with a colon. X is equal to 10. So this x is equal to 10 is local to this function. So inside a function, what is the x value? Suppose 10. So when we are out of the indentation, x is equal to 20, it is not in the indentation. That's why it is global. So after that, I am again calling the function. So here x is equal to 20, we are updating the 10 value with 20. So after that, after updating, I'm calling the function func. Then again I'm printing the x value outside of the function. Now we will get like this. The output is inside a function the x is 10 and outside of the function the x is 20. So this is local variable and this is a global variable. Variable outside of a function are visible for every function. They have a global scope. Next, types of arguments. So in Python, we have 4 types of arguments. One is positional arguments, keyword arguments, default arguments, and arbitrary variable length arguments. So first we have to discuss the positional arguments. If we define any function with n parameters or arguments, then we have to call that function with n arguments only. If we call it with a different number of arguments, the interpreter will show an error message. Suppose a function with 3 arguments, then we have to call the function with 3 values only, not with 2 or not with 4. So if we call with that function with 2 arguments or 4 arguments, the Python interpreter will give a error message. So that is a positional arguments. Example, definition wish. Here we are writing the wish function with 2 arguments, name comma message. So then we are printing the name and message. Then wish Shiva, comma. Shiva is the name. Good morning is a message. So Shiva, hi Shiva, good morning. Then again we are calling wish Krishna, good afternoon. So Krishna is a name, good afternoon is a message. Then here Vishnu is a name, good evening is a message. So Raju is a name, good night is the message. Suppose the number of arguments in the function definition or calling function are not same, then the interpreter will give an error or the error message. So suppose here, for example, wish Shiva. Actually, the wish function have 2 arguments, but here we are calling with only 1 argument. That's why the type error is wish missing one required positional argument, that is message MSG. So we are calling with less arguments. Suppose if we call the function with more arguments, then wish Shiva good morning, good night. So here good morning, good night, Shiva, we have 3 arguments, but the function definition only have 2 arguments. So these 3 more than 2 arguments. That's why the error message is wish takes 2 positional arguments, but 3 were given. So in this we given 3 arguments, but wish have only 2 arguments. That's why if you pass less arguments or more arguments, then we will get an error. So that is a positional argument. It matter is the main issue is the number of arguments. The next one is keyword arguments. Python allows functions to be called using the keyword arguments. When we call the function, the order of the arguments can be changed. Here, order is not important, but the number of arguments must be same. Why? Because here we are using the keyword and the value. That's why here in the keyword arguments, the order is not mandatory, but here the keyword is mandatory. Issue. So here again we are taking same example wish function with 2 arguments, name comma message, then print hi comma name plus message. So we are printing the name with the message. So here we are using the keyword arguments. Wish. So here what is the name? Name is a 1 keyword and Shiva is a value. MSG is 1 keyword and good morning is a value to that MSG. So these are name and message are they in this example. Those are the keywords. So suppose Here, what is the order is not important. In keyword arguments, the order is not important, but the number of arguments must be same. So in the wish function, we have two arguments. So just see this line. So here also we have two, we are passing two values with the keyword. So first we are calling the message, we are passing the value to message and then Raju. But in our function definition, first argument is name, the second one is message. But in this line, first we are passing the value to message, then only we are passing the value to Raju. So here we will not get any error. Why? Because in keyword argument, the order is not important, but the number of arguments is must be same. So here also two arguments, in this also two arguments, but here we are using the keyword, that's why it will not give an error. It will display the message, hi Shiva, good morning, hi Raju, good afternoon. The next one, if you want to use positional arguments and keyword arguments at the same time in the same function definition, then we should take positional arguments first and keyword arguments next. So suppose we are passing two arguments. First compulsory, the first one is a positional argument, the second one is a keyword argument. But if we pass first keyword argument then positional, then it will give an error. So def, again wish function with two arguments, print hi, we are just printing some hi message with the name and the message. So here wish Shiva. Shiva is in place of name, we are passing the value Shiva. So this is a positional argument. MSG is equal to good morning. So this is a keyword and this is a positional, this is a keyword arguments. So first here observe this line. Keyword arguments in the same function, then take positional arguments first and keyword arguments next. So positional argument first, this keyword argument is next. So this will not give any error. Why? Because Shiva is a positional argument and message is equal to good morning is a keyword argument. So it satisfies this condition. That's why it will give a message, hi Shiva, good morning. Suppose if we pass first keyword argument, then positional argument, it will give an error like this. Just observe this example. Wish name is equal to Rama. This is the keyword argument. Here, why? Because here we are using the keyword name. Good afternoon is a message. This is a positional argument. So our condition is first positional argument, then keyword argument. But in this line, first keyword argument we have, then positional argument. That's why the syntax error is positional argument follows keyword arguments. That's why use like this. The next one is default arguments. We can have a default values for function arguments, definition function, and here again we are using wish function with two arguments. One is name and the second one is message is equal to good morning. So this is a default argument. Why? Because in the function definition only we are giving some value to some argument. So here message, MSG is a argument. Here only we are giving the value to message good morning. So this is the default argument. If we do not pass any values to message, by default it will display this good morning message. Print hi comma name. So this is hi, what is name? Shiva. Suppose here wish Shiva only. So here we are passing only name. So we are not passing any message here, comma and message is not there. But this is a default argument. That's why by default the message will be assigned with good morning. That's why hi Shiva, and what is the message? Good morning. So this is a default argument. So in default argument again we are not calling with parameter argument value. So here in this example, just observe this one. Wish Krishna, in the place of name Krishna, and again here we are passing the message as good evening. So here we are passing message good evening. That's why here it will print hi Krishna good evening. But in this function call wish Shiva, we are not passing any value to message. That's why it prints only the good morning, a default message, default value of the message. So next again in the just here also wish Raju. Raju is a name. Here we are not passing any message to this wish calling function. So here also again we have some good morning message. If we not pass any value, if you then the default message will the default argument will assign. So if you are not passing the argument to message, then default value will be taken. Any number of arguments in a function can have a default value, but once we have a default argument, all the arguments to its right must also have the default values only. That is, after default arguments, non-default arguments should not be taken. This is one condition in default arguments. So, the default argument should be last. Example, def wish name is equal to Shiva message. So, here name is equal to Shiva is a default argument here. Message is some non-default value. So what is the line? Arguments right side must have the default values. So in default value, name is equal to Shiva is a default value, but message is message is right side of default value, but it is not a default value. This is not a non-default value, variable or argument. That's why it will gain an error like non-default arguments follows default arguments. But in this example, first one is a default argument, next one is a non-default argument. It will give a syntax error. The next parameter type is argument type is arbitrary arguments are also known as variable length arguments. The function can take a variable number of arguments, and how we are declaring or defining a variable length arguments is def function name and the parameter list. This parameter prefix with hash symbol. Def function name open bracket the asterisk and parameter and end this function end with colon, and this then next the set of statements. Here parameter can take variable length arguments. Parameter is a tuple type by default as it can take variable arguments. So variable length means we can pass any number of arguments. So we can pass one argument, we can pass two arguments, we can pass a string argument, we can pass n number of arguments. Def add, this is a variable length argument n. So in place of n, we can pass any number of values, print variable arguments. So this is add with 0 elements. Add, where these are all calling functions. This is one calling function of add with no elements, 0 elements. Add with one element, one argument. Add with string argument. Add with 10, 22 values, add with 3 values. That means variable length. The name itself, the calling function, in calling function, the arguments is variable length. We can any number of values. So again, variable arguments, we can pass with any number. This is arbitrary argument or variable length arguments. So till now, we have functions and the types of function arguments. What is a scope and lifetime of a variable in function, and how we are declaring a function, how we are calling a function, we discuss in this class. Thank you.